Hello everybody and welcome back to the Varys Connolly channel. This is that channel and I am them, and today we're going to be talking about Super Mario Land. So recently I was just kind of sitting around and I was like, you know what game I miss? You know what game was really fun from my childhood? You know what game is nostalgic to me? Well, it's in the title, so you already know what the game is. But I was sitting there and I was like, you know, I've never actually beaten Super Mario Land. I've never taken the time to play it all the way through. This is a tragedy. This is ridiculous, and I need to rectify that. How can I call myself a Mario fan if I've never beaten probably one of the strangest entries in the Mario franchise of all time? One thing that I absolutely love about Super Mario Land is that it is from the era where Mario wasn't like super established as an IP, and so people just kind of like threw stuff at the wall and saw what stuck. And I think that this was one of the greatest eras of Mario because it gave us games like Super Mario Bros. 2, Super Mario Bros. 3, Super Mario Land, Super Mario Land 2, and Yoshi's Island. Games that are highly revered as being creative and interesting and offering a great amount of variety from what we saw from just the first game. Now, granted, Super Mario Land mimics the first game quite a bit, but the differences that it did bring to the table was a great translation for the Game Boy at the time. So for August video, and because it is the anniversary of my channel this month, I decided, you know what? This video's for me. I want to make a video for me. I feel like Mario went a bit sterile there for a second. The new Super Series was great on the DS when it first came out. However, after that, they kind of got a bit repetitive. Now, New Super Mario Bros. Wii was really cool because it offered a 4-player version of the original style that we're used to, and I think that that game really kind of set the tone for a lot of multiplayer games going forward of this variety. So it offered a lot in terms of game mechanics and ideas that other games later used as well, but at the same time, having New Super Mario Bros. Come up like every year was starting to get a little old. Some of the formulaic stuff even started leaking into the other games, like Super Mario 3D World, one of my favorite Mario games of all time. It was a lot of fun, it was really cool, but the style was kind of basic. They brought in all the characters and they offered a lot of power-ups and a lot of interesting stuff, but it got kind of bland after a while, which is really a shame because they introduced a lot of really cool stuff and a lot of like unique things that a lot of Mario games were kind of lacking at the time. But I do think that Super Mario 3D World was a step in the right direction, where Super Mario 3D Land was also a great step in the right direction. But again, those games still suffered from the like, you know, we're getting there, but we're not quite there yet. I think Super Mario Odyssey was another great step in that direction. It got a little bit more weird, got a little bit more strange. Still kind of, you know, your typical sterile Mario, but you know, it was a fantastic game, a great experience, and I think we are getting somewhere. However, Super Mario Bros. Wonder came out, and that was our ticket to the weird. I knew this was gonna happen. Happens every fucking time I record a video. My fucking allergies act up every time I record a video for Varys, and it's so annoying. Oh god, I want to fucking tear my skin off.
Parents and
Fuck off. Maybe I should do a video on allergies. Like the world's worst allergies. Because holy shit. But with Mario getting back into the weird atmosphere of stuff, I wanted to go back and reminisce on the older games that inspired this weird. So basically, there are 4 worlds in this game, and each world has 3 levels in them. And the 4 worlds are, and I quote, the Birabuto Kingdom, the Muda Kingdom, the Easton Kingdom, and the Chai Kingdom. Each world has a different variety of environments and enemies. Anything from the typical Goomba to exploding Koopas to that fucking thing. Seriously, when I say that the enemy designs in Super Mario Land get weird, I mean they get fucking weird. I'm talking Moai heads that fly, Moai heads that walk, Moai heads that have arms that can hurl rocks at you, and what the fuck is up with this game in Moai heads? And this fucking thing. Other than the nightmare-fueled enemies in this game, there are also other characters in this game, such as Mario, our protagonist, who we play as. We rescue Princess Daisy in this game, which was interesting because I'm pretty sure this was the first instance that we were introduced to Daisy in the entirety of the Mario series, which is cool. Daisy is my favorite princess out of all of them, and I'm glad that this was her start because this is one of my favorite Mario games that introduced one of my favorite Mario princesses, so there we go. I know a lot of people say their favorite is Rosalina. I don't see the appeal. Can't wait for that to fucking start a war in my comments section. What's fun about this game is that there are some auto-scrolling levels. Now you might be saying, Varys, you just said that an auto-scrolling level was fun. And I know, I heard it come out of my mouth too, and I wanted to slap me as well. However, I have to point out that these auto-scrolling levels only happen in vehicles. which again, you might be thinking, oh my god, that's so much worse. But actually, it's not as bad as it looks. The levels consist of you being in a submarine or an airplane, and honestly, if you just hold the fire button and just move around a lot, you'll beat it in no time. They take like, I don't know, 5 minutes to beat. It's really not that bad. I would also like to point out that the manual counts the submarine and the airplane as characters, and you might be wondering, well, who's the big bad? Who's the character that we should be fighting? Who we're antagonizing in this story? Well, it's none other than Tatanga the Mysterious Spaceman, of course. Not Bowser, not Bowser's weird brother or whatever the heck that guy was. Tatanga the Mysterious Spaceman. And you might be wondering, oh, interesting. Okay, so we got a new villain. They're from outer space. That's kind of wacky. That's kind of interesting. What's their motive? Well, according to the manual, they don't have a motive. It literally just says that he just showed up one day with his army. So literally, this enemy's plot arc is that he's just an asshole. So the gameplay. How does this game play? Fine. It plays perfectly fine. There's nothing really wrong with it. It's just Mario. In this game, you can walk, run, jump, duck, and throw super balls. So basically, you have the powers of a 5-year-old throwing a temper tantrum. The jump is really forgiving in this game. It's very, very high, and if you hold the sprint button, it's even higher. It's actually kind of nice. There's a lot of moments where I ran into situations where I really, really needed my jump to carry me over a long gap. I had no problems with it whatsoever. The jump is incredible in this game. A problem that I commonly ran into, though, with this game is that it is very slippery, which is a weird thing to say given that it's a Mario game, and usually you only run into that situation if they give you the option plays like Luigi, and that's kind of the expense that he has, is he jumps higher, but he's slippery. But in this game, it's always slippery. You slide just a little bit every time you land. And sometimes that can mean the difference between life or death, and it has pissed me off more times than I can count. Especially later on in the game when the levels start to get increasingly more difficult, and I have to make constant leaps of faith, and I'm dying over and over and over and over and over. It started to weigh on me a little bit when I played it originally, but I'm fine now. So as you jump through the levels, killing innocent bystanders, because I mean, holy shit, that's just a guy, you'll make your way through the end of the levels to fight some bosses. The bosses in this game aren't particularly difficult at all. The first boss that you fight is the Sphinx. The second one that you fight is like a seahorse squid thing. The third one that you fight is a moe head that hurls rocks at you. And the final boss is against a cloud. What a fucking disappointing final boss. Except just kidding, because when you defeat the cloud, you have to fight Tatanga the Mysterious Spaceman. And he's actually like the easiest boss in the game. That's not even a joke. I actually thought it was more complicated than I thought originally, and I died several times and then realized that it was nothing. It was super easy. Most of the bosses follow the formula from the original game, where you just have to click a little button behind them to basically end the boss entirely. I'm not really against that. I think it's interesting, but some bosses make it a little bit harder than others, and they put a little bit more of a unique spin on it. Second boss is interesting because you actually have to blow up some blocks to get behind them and then use the button. I ended up just killing the boss by shooting it a bunch of times, so that worked too. The third boss is interesting because you actually have to use one of the game mechanics that you learned earlier, which was riding a boulder, which yes, you have to ride boulders in this game, in order to get to the other side to hit the button to destroy the boss. And then the final boss is the cloud named Blockington. I don't know why they called it that. I feel like he should be made of blocks. Like, I think like it'd be like a Tetris boss or something, but no, it's a cloud, completely round, and is not made of blocks at all. And when will the lies fucking end, Nintendo? But you actually have to defeat this boss using the plane that you're in for this boss. And the same thing goes for Tatanga in the second phase of that boss fight, where you have to defeat him using the blast from your plane. Tatanga is actually not that difficult of a boss. You literally just have to dodge his fire while firing simultaneously yourself, and eventually you'll just defeat him. I think when I actually figured that out, I had to look it up. I went to Reddit, which I'm not proud of, to find out how to do it, and the guy was literally like, yep, just keep firing and dodging it, and he'll just blow up. I'm not complaining. I don't actually hate it when games have easy bosses. That didn't really bother me. The levels themselves are a lot more difficult. The platforming gets very tricky. The moving platforms, the different pipes and different little secret tunnels that you can take, the different enemies popping in and out of pipes, the different enemies that show up out of nowhere off screen and fucking piss me off when I die, and god damn it! One enemy that actually surprised me that made it into the game was Bullet Bills, but he was in the original game, so it makes sense. But when he pops out of the pipe and then fires, then goes back into the pipe, that is the worst version of the Bullet Bill by far, because you have no idea when he's gonna pop out, you have no idea when he's gonna fire, and you just have to fucking deal with it, and I fucking hate it. So at the end of it all, what is your reward. You save Princess Daisy, you get a nice little thing of them going into like a spaceship and zooming off into the sky. The credits play and the names are all abbreviated and it really confused me at first. You are then booted back to the main menu screen where you are greeted with your cursor that is turned from a mushroom into a Mario head. And you're like, oh, interesting. That must just be a cute little thing like, oh, you beat the game. Congratulations. Not quite. You see, when you beat Super Mario Land, they give you a New Game Plus, a hard mode. All it is that they just add more enemies to the game and made it like twice as difficult as the original. That's kind of it. That's all they do. That's your reward, is playing the game again. But it's fucking harder. And you might be wondering, what was my experience playing the New Game Plus? And I can tell you confidently that I didn't do that, and fuck you, I choose life. I'm not doing that shit. So, at the end of it all, how do we feel about Super Mario Land? Super Mario Land is a fantastic, maybe short, but very memorable and very well put together Mario game. And it stands as a monument to Weird Mario. That era of gaming when Mario just did whatever the hell he wanted and everybody fucking loved it. Not to mention, this game is the entire reason that Wario Land exists, which is crazy, and I can't believe that we probably wouldn't have had Wario Land or WarioWare, or maybe even Wario at all, had this game never existed. And that is a universe that I do not want to live in. At the time of its release, it got generally positive reviews. I think some of the higher ones were like 7 out of 10, I think like 8 out of 10, maybe a little bit higher than that. That was pretty much roughly where people put it. It's very short, and people were kind of upset that it was short, but a lot of people kind of understood that, like, you know what, if you're gonna translate Mario into like a pocket version, it kind of does it in the perfect way, so it's good. There's only 3 power-ups in the game too. There's the Super Mushroom, there's the Super Ball, and then there's the Star, and that's it. To be fair, the original Mario only had those 3 as well, and they changed it from being a fireball to just a ball. That was a little disappointing, but it's something that I can overlook. Plus, they rectified that in Super Mario Land 2 anyway, so not a big deal. Maybe I should talk about Super Mario Land 2. So what impact did this have on the fans? Well, for me personally, it is something that inspires the hell out of me because I love weird aesthetics and weird storytelling, and I love when they take something that like seems like it's going to be normal and then they kind of throw it on its head and it becomes unnormal. It's one of my favorite things in the world. Super Mario Land being a good example, Corn Kid 64 being another good example, where it's like it's an N64 platformer, but it's really fucking weird and like dreamlike. If you watch my channel and you watch the other channel that I'm on, the Cartridge Crusaders, you would know I'm kind of a big fan of weird. Other fans took it upon themselves to show their love for Super Mario Land. For instance, somebody made a like remake for the SNES. It's called New Super Mario Land. Not a huge fan of that name, but that's okay, because I think when this came out, that was like when New Super Mario Brothers came out. But the word New Super Mario Brothers has been completely destroyed in my brain at this point, so I can't help but cringe whenever I hear that. And I want to stress that those games are perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with them. They're just kind of boring. The first one for the DS and the second one for the 3DS are probably some of my favorites. New Super Mario Brothers Wii will always have a special place in my heart because it had the 4-player multiplayer, and it was something that I loved growing up as a kid. But New Super Mario Bros. U, as much cool things as it added, like giving us like Nabbit and Toadette, it was just kind of more of the same, and I was starting to get kind of bored of it. But anyway, this fan remake. So it's called New Super Mario Land, and basically it is a 4-player co-op version of Super Mario Land in the style of New Super Mario Bros. DS. There seems to be custom sprites. The music is custom made to sound like the Super Mario Land soundtrack. And yeah, all the characters are just recolors of Mario, but I still appreciate the level of detail put into this. This also is not a ROM. This is not like a ROM hack. This is completely remade from the ground up. There's no borrowed code whatsoever. As well as the multiplayer, they also added the ability for you to go backwards instead of being locked when the camera goes forwards, and you can wall jump, which kind of breaks the game in half a little bit, but is also kind of nice. One other thing I want to talk about for the fans is that somebody made a DX version of Super Mario Land, which I think is fucking awesome. If you guys know Super Mario Bros. Deluxe, which is a Game Boy Color game, somebody basically saw that and was like, what if they did that with Super Mario Land? And it's the greatest thing ever. It's basically the same game as the original, but all the graphics are updated. You can play as Mario or Luigi. You can swap the style between the original and the new one that they created for it. You can turn on hard mode immediately, and you can now look up. Now that's good game design. All in all, I think Super Mario Land is a fantastic video game, and I am truly happy that Nintendo is starting to realize that the best thing to do with Mario is to lean into the weird. I think of things like the Mario and Luigi series, with like Superstar Saga and Partners in Time, and how weird those games were. I also like thinking of Super Mario RPG or the Paper Mario series. Basically, any Mario RPG has been leaning into the weird of Mario for the longest time, and Nintendo just kind of ignored it for the longest time, and they finally acknowledged it, with Brothership coming out and the remake of TTYD coming out. So happy that Nintendo is finally acknowledging the weird part of Mario's history, because honestly, it just makes the games that much more interesting, that much more fun. And honestly, I think fans like it way more than just normal, boring Mario. Anyway, I don't know. I just made this video because I adore Weird Mario, and I hope that you do too. And if you didn't before, I hope you do now after watching this video. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Just wanted to make a quick little review of this little game that I used to play as a kid and finally beat as an adult. Technically, I use save states. Please respect. Please. But anyway, thanks again for watching, guys. Make sure to hit like, make sure to subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next video. See you later.